Mm.
Okay, awesome. Welcome everybody. This is week 3 in a 4-week series discussion about teaching children about finances. Today we're going to talk about debt and honesty. And if you have any questions or comments, you can use Zoom to raise your hand, or you can put comments in the chat. Kim is our moderator. She will let me know, and I will stop periodically to answer questions if I can. If I say this every week, if I'm not able to answer questions, then I will either find the answer and answer you later, or defer maybe to somebody else in the group who has more experience than I do. This is more of a group discussion than it is a lecture. So I hope that you feel comfortable enough to participate. And we'll do a prize drawing at the end. If you contribute, your name gets, just for showing up, your name will be put in the drawing. And if you add any meaningful conversation to the discussion, then we'll enter your name in for a second time. Any questions before we delve right into today's specific topic?
Also, if they invited somebody that joined today, they get another entry in. So if somebody did that, put it in the chat for me and I'll get you down twice. Awesome.
Awesome. If that does not make sense, then reach out to Kim through the chat. And she is the Use Tech for Good user ID. So if you want to send a message directly to her, that's it. If not, if you choose, there's a feature to choose to select it, to, send a message to everybody, then it'll go to everybody. Okay.
Meagan, can
yes.
I jump in on that as well?
Sure.
So yeah, for every person that you invite, you are going to get an entry. Okay, so well, I should say everyone that you invite that comes, that shows up, you're going to get an entry. So those of you that are, you know, that are new, or I guess what I should say is anyone who is not a member of the team, please private message Kim, who invited you. So how you found out about this so that she can make that determination. Also, team members, you can also be put in the drawing by inviting other people to come. Okay, so I know you've kind of been excluded from some of the, I mean, just the showing up part, which that's actually going to change at some point as well. But for right now, if you invite people to come, you will actually be put in the drawing for bringing your guests. Okay, and we'll talk more about that later too, but I just wanted you to know that you can be put in the drawing for bringing guests.
Awesome. We've done 2 weeks of this subject already, and the links for those recordings are available in Discover Family Fun USA group, as well as some of the local communities. If you are not sure which community you belong to, you can go to the USA group to get this information, or you can find your local community at mydiscoverydestination.com/communities. I introduced myself briefly in the first video, and I'll just do a quick introduction again. My name is Meagan Waite. It's not pronounced Megan, but I have answered to Megan my whole life. And I am not a financial planner, but it's my passion. Financial planning is my passion. And I've done a pretty good job of teaching my kids to work and to manage their finances. So I'm not a professional financial planner by any means, but I love doing it and I love talking about it. It's weird because I think budgeting is a fun thing to do. So it's kind of strange. Okay, any other questions before we get started with today's specific topic?
Yeah, I'll just add to that again too, Meagan, and I'll keep it really short, but I am actually I'm licensed, I'm securities licensed, life licensed, and actually met with Meagan's children, and she has done a great job. I won't go into detail like I did the first time, but yes, Meagan is very, very qualified. There is no one more qualified to lead parents on how to teach children than Meagan.
Awesome. And Dave Ramsey is a big part of my debt-free journey, and I subscribe to many of his theories. We might not agree on everything, but I will quote him. I will share some of the stuff that he shared, and I will always give credit to him because his organization is quite large and powerful and makes a lot of sense to me. Everything that he says about money makes sense. So I want you to think, first of all, speaking of making sense, does this make sense to you? That if you do things the way that most people do them, that you're going to be like most people. If you copy the things that most people do, chances are we're going to end up really close to most people. Now, did you know that 70% or more of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? Most people in America are broke. And most Americans think that being broke is okay and that it's normal. If you do normal financial things, you're going to be broke too. And chances are, if you do normal financial things and you end up broke, your children will too. Doesn't always happen. I am a living testament to that fact. I changed the way things happened for me, and I did not follow in my parents' footsteps. I love my parents dearly. We don't always agree on how to do finances, but I think both my parents are really proud of me for where I am now. So let's talk about some of the things that most Americans say are normal about finances. Number one, it's okay to finance something if you can't afford it right now, including lots of expensive gifts for birthdays and holidays. Here's the truth. Allowing a young adult to get and use a credit card can set them up for a lifetime of buying things with money they don't have. Let me say that again. Allowing kids to get, early teens, young adults to get and use a credit card will set them up for a lifetime of buying things they don't have the money to buy. This enslaves you to the credit card system. And I remember my first credit card. I don't know who remembers Mervyn's department store, but that was a big deal when I was growing up in California, and that was my first credit card. I think it had a $60 limit, and I was so excited. I'm glad I changed, but that's a different story for a different time. Let's talk about, let's go with a little scenario on what can happen with a credit card, okay? Let's say that you have you use a regular credit card, a Visa, MasterCard, to buy a new TV, and that TV costs $1,000. You got a big TV on a good deal. Your payment is about $20 a month. Now that doesn't sound too bad, but the interest on that 20 is going to be about $15. Okay. Now it shocks me, but I realize that most people don't even know what interest is. Interest, some people don't know. I guess a lot of us do know, but interest is the cost to borrow the money from the institution that gave you the credit card. If you are paying $20 a month and $15 goes back to the institution, we'll say the bank, that gave you that credit card, only $5 is going on the principal, on the actual cost of the TV. Because the way credit cards work, making that minimum payment, that minimum $20 every month, will guarantee that you are going to pay interest on top of interest for a long time. If you never charge another thing to that card, if you just pay minimum payments, it will take you 17-ish years to pay off that $1,000 TV. In the end, it's going to cost you closer to $4,000. Now, I would rather have that extra $3,000 to do something with. Okay. So number one myth is what Dave Ramsey calls them. Number one, we'll call it a lie because it's a lie. Number one, lie. It's okay to finance something that you can't afford right now. That's a lie. Okay. Number two, lie. You're always going to have a car payment. Except for about 6 months in 2013. I had a moment of weakness before I got on board with Dave Ramsey. I have not had a regular car payment since 1997. Yes, I'm patting myself on the back. There was a 6-month period before I really got on board with Dave Ramsey, and he's my ex-husband. He wanted this car, and I just said, fine, go get the car. If you think we can afford the payment, go get the car. And I started listening to Dave Ramsey, and I knuckled down, and we had that car paid off in 6 months. So that's the 6-month stint I was talking about. But I haven't had one since 1997. So the fact that you're going to always have a car payment is a lie. Okay. There is a strategy that Dave Ramsey recommends that totally flips the idea of car payments on its head. Now, I shared that with Kim. Kim, did you see that link?
Yep, I'll get it right now and post it in the chat.
Okay, I always get phone calls at the wrong time. Hang on. All right.
Actually, go ahead.
Yeah. So
I was just, can I pipe in here for just a minute?
Yes, you may.
Let me share with you. So my 6-month car payment stint was actually very intentional. Okay. And again, you need to understand money to do. We basically, when we went to get a car, in order to, so they were going to knock off like $3,000 for financing it. And I was like, yeah, I would like that $3,000 off. So what we did is we went ahead, we financed the car it had to be for a minimum, I think it was 6 months. Okay. But so yeah, it was either 3 or 6 months, but basically, so we went ahead with the financing to get the $3,000 off. I figured out exactly how much the payments would be. And then I paid off the full amount. Okay. So it was, let's say it was a $20,000 car. I figured out, okay, the payments at say $400 for the 6 months would be the $2,400. Am I doing my math right here? Whatever. Anyway.
Oh, don't ask me to do math. I'm live on Zoom.
We paid off the full, everything else and just left enough in there to make those payments for the 6 months, so that then at the end, so even that, and the reason I did that is because I didn't want to be paying interest on the full, like 20,000 or whatever it was. So literally paid off everything except for those 6 payments that saved us the $3,000.
Yeah. Now, 35 years ago, if you paid cash for a car, the dealer used to give you a really good deal. Now, the way they make their money is through the financing. They will lose money on the sale of a car, but make up for it with the financing. And I can tell you this for sure because I bought a vehicle, I paid cash for it last October. I walked in, I made the deal, I had the cash, and I talked to the sales guy. I flat out asked him, and he said that that's where they make their money is through the financing part. So if you're very dedicated and you plan, like Shirley talked about, you can do that. You'd have to have good credit, but we'll talk a little bit more about credit in a few minutes. But
actually, keep in mind the fact that they want you to finance tells the whole story.
Oh yeah.
The fact that they would rather have you finance than give them cash, that says it all. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And it turns into a really ugly cycle because cars depreciate so quickly, and then you owe more than it's worth, and then you decide to trade in a few years, and you just increase the amount that you owe because you're wrapping your old loan in. It's just a very unhealthy way to look at things. check out that 5-minute video that Dave Ramsey's team put together. Man, I wish I'd known that when I was, 19 years old. So keep in mind also that his method, it takes patience. We talked about patience a lot last week, and it takes consistent behavior, but it's doable. So, and it tells you how you can drive, he calls it driving free cars for life. And it's his idea. And man, I wish somebody had told me that when I was a lot younger. I'd be in a whole different position than I am now. Okay, lie number 3. You need a mortgage to buy a house. That's not necessarily true, but if you do need a mortgage, there are some ways to do it that are better than others. So that's going to take me to the next lie, is that 30-year mortgage is the right way to go. Now, a 30-year mortgage might be normal, but it's not necessarily the best plan. If you go with a 30-year mortgage, you're going to always have a house payment, and you pay it you just pay your 30-year mortgage, just regular payments. You're going to have a house payment forever because you're probably not going to stay in your first, maybe, or even your second house. I'd have to count how many houses I've owned and sold. But if you restart with a 30-year mortgage and you don't pay any extra, you're always going to be paying a mortgage. And you really don't want to do that when you're in your early 60s and approaching retirement age. That being said, 30-year mortgages were not always standard. 110 years ago, mortgages looked very different than they do today. And I won't get into the differences there. But after the Depression, they were kind of revamped, and 15-year mortgages became the standard. Those were eventually pushed to 20 years and then 25 years and now 30 years. Now, why? Because it's a much better deal for the lenders, okay? They make a lot more money. Marketplace.org says that the 30-year mortgage pushes up home prices by making it easier for buyers to manage a bigger loan. So that's part of the reason for the jump in housing prices. Those buyers end up paying a lot more interest over the life of the loan, and the amount of principal relative to interest is very small, and it takes a very long time to build up equity. Okay, I saw a question come in. I'm going to have Kim read it for us so we can all hear it.
It was just a comment. They said, someone told me that they are now lending on houses up to 50-year mortgages. Can you imagine?
My gosh.
No, I can't. Oh my goodness. Okay.
And again, think of the reason behind that, okay? First of all, they want your interest for 50 years. And secondly, if you spread the mortgage out over 50 years, then you can afford more house, or you think you can afford more house. But the reality is you can't afford more house. You just end up paying more. So think about it this way, you guys. Do you want to be the one paying interest, or would you rather be the bank?
Yeah.
And this is what Meagan is talking about, like with the cars and with whatever. Become the bank, be your own bank in terms of, and you have to be careful with that phrase because some people use that wrong too, but pay yourself the interest, like on the cars, pay yourself the interest, and then you're going to be able to afford a new car very quickly. Same with the mortgage, pay it off in 15 years, and you're going to be able to afford much more house.
Yep. Now, interest rates right now are really, really low. When I was a young adult, 10% was really good. And I remember right before I graduated high school, I'm dating myself here, interest rates for homes got as high as like 16%. It was awful. They're what, 3 right now? So the fact that the banks can't charge as much, yes, they're going to extend those loans out for 50 years because they know that they can make more money doing it that way. So yeah, it's kind of.
Can I say something on that?
Sure.
For a brief second, me and my husband looked into building just, because the interest rates were low and everything. But we were talking around to builders, and one contractor said interest rates are low, but materials are so high that in reality, you end up paying a lot more for your house. So needless to say, we didn't build, we were just doing upgrades to our home with, money that we already have, not going into debt for it. But we have a lot of people up where I'm living that are building these huge homes, and it's so expensive right now because of the materials.
You're right. You're right. And COVID hasn't helped those. Those have helped them skyrocket, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
COVID and the fires.
Oh,
And then
that's
my husband and I were planning to build, and then with all of the fires, and he's really good friends with, he was across from a builder's, anyway, a wood shop. And he has literally, they have like a 2x4 that used to cost $1.69 is $12.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's like, we're not building right now.
No,
We'll
bad
wait
time.
until the cost. Hopefully the cost will go down.
Yeah.
Still.
Any other comments before I move on?
You're going to address if they're in a 30-year, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
In
perfect.
fact, we're going to start talking about that right now. Now, this is Dave Ramsey's advice, and this is one of the things I agree with him on. The best deal, if you have to get a mortgage, is to get a 15-year conventional mortgage. You put 20% down, and you make sure that your payment is no more than 25% of your take-home pay. That makes it manageable. Yes, you might have to save a little bit longer for a bigger down payment, but you don't have to pay what's called mortgage insurance if you put 20% down. And mortgage insurance can run $100 per 10,000. Is $100 per 100,000 borrowed or something like that? It could add $300, $500, $700 to your mortgage payment. So that's because if you have less than 20% down, then you are a higher risk to the bank. So they attach an extra insurance for them. It's not for you. It's for them. So if you default, they get the money. Shirley, did you want to say anything about, oh, I know what you're thinking. If you already have a mortgage and it's a 30-year mortgage, you don't have to refinance unless you're saving significantly on interest. I wouldn't even suggest it. Just find an amortization calendar online or call the bank and say, hey, what would my payments be in order for me to pay this off in 15 years, and make those payments. It'll work the same way. If you have the mortgage insurance, it's called PMI right now. Some lenders, as soon as you build up enough equity, and that can happen either by you paying or the value going up, as long as you have at least 20% equity, some lenders will drop the insurance without you refinancing. So if you are in that boat, call. It's all just a phone call. So let's see, where were we? Yeah. Now, how does this affect your kids? You drill this into your kids. You change the way you do things now, and you teach them as you go. It is okay to tell your kids, you know what? I have made poor financial decisions, or I didn't know, but I have learned, and I'm going to share this with you because I don't want you stuck in the same boat. Who doesn't want better for our kids? And it's not giving them more stuff. It's helping set them up in every aspect of their lives so that they can succeed. Okay, next lie, unless we have something else to say about homes. Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
I have something to say about what you were saying there. The other thing, you guys, when talking to your children about finances, remember that words are powerful. Okay, words our brain reads words. So the way you talk about money is really important. Don't say we can't afford that.
Right.
Say we choose to spend our money elsewhere. Okay, because if you put out there, we can't afford that, your brain hears that over and over, and it will figure it out so that you can't afford that. Okay, you can afford the things that you want, if you choose where you're going to spend your money. Okay, so again, instead of saying, no, we're not going to buy that, we can't afford that, say we choose to spend our money on other things. We choose to put our money in the bank. Okay, we choose to save for a family vacation, or we choose to save for, for a nicer car down the road, or whatever it is. Be really careful of your words. The other thing is take advantage of the different moments that you have that will inevitably come up with your kids. I remember one very specifically with my kids. my two teenage, they're, young teenage boys were in the car. I run in for something. I came back out, and I remember the younger was just so angry at his older brother. And he said, Mom, I need $5. And Nick told me that he would give me $5, but then I have to pay him $10 by the end of the week. And I don't want to do that. That's not fair. And so I utilized that opportunity to say to him, well, he's the lender. He's basically offering to lend you money. And I agree with you. That's pretty selfish on his part. That's not fair, but he's the lender and he gets to make the rules. Now you have two other options. Number one, you could just wait until you have $5. Number two, you could actually, he had three options. I said, number two, you could go home and work in that wood pile. I don't remember what job I gave him, but I gave him a job. I said, you could go home and do this, and I would pay you $5 for that. I said, or number three, I will lend you the $5 for at a reasonable interest rate, and we can figure out what that would be. But I took that opportunity to basically teach the kids that you have options, and yeah, the lender gets to set the rules. Okay. So Nick being he was ready to go in there as, as a not very nice lender and say, yeah, I'll give you $5 today and I want 10 by the end of the week. They get to set the rules, and you guys, that literally is, there are situations like that. When you borrow money, the lender gets to set the rules, but you have the choice whether to take it or not. You have all of those other choices available to you to say, okay, I'm just going to wait until we have it, or I'm going to go make extra money. I'm going to go find an extra part-time job for a minute and make extra money there, or I'm going to go find another lender that gives a better rate. That's not a loan shark.
Yeah, 100% interest or return on investment's pretty good, I'd say. I'd take that deal every time.
Yeah, my kids were smart. Nick,
okay. Now, Nick was pretty savvy there. This next lie can be a little bit controversial. Okay. I'll just go ahead and say it. The lie is that you've got to protect your credit score. First off, let's talk about what a credit score is. It's a number that's based on your relationship with debt. Theoretically, if you never have any debt, you should never have a credit score. It should be 0. I do realize that insurance companies and residential rental management companies are starting to ask or run your credit for a credit score right now. But not everybody does it, first of all, but anybody that understands truly how finances work, if they see your score as 0, they know that you don't owe anybody, and you should be able to make your own payments. You should be able to make that rent payment. You should be able to make your insurance payment. If you have a 0 credit score, it means you have 0 debt. And if you have a credit score that's in your 500s, it means you have debt and you don't pay your payments. So now we could agree to disagree on this subject, I'm sure. I do use a credit card. I use a credit card responsibly. I do not carry a balance. And because I use my credit card and I pay it off regularly, my credit score is good. And it's not 0 because I have 0 debt, but it is good because the one debt that I do have, I use responsibly. So I'm going to open it up for conversation about that topic. Understand that we may have to agree to disagree on it a little bit if you have something you want to say or question you want to ask. But if nobody has any comments, I'm going to move on.
Oh, I have comments, but I want to hear someone else's if anyone else has.
Anybody else want to talk about credit for a minute? Credit score.
Okay, so I'll start. And if you guys want to pipe in. So this is actually the one area when Meagan said, she agrees with Dave Ramsey on most things. Okay. I actually used to teach Dave Ramsey classes for a long time. I've taught Dave Ramsey classes, and I agree with him on most things. This is actually the one area that we don't agree on completely. And that is my rule here when it comes to credit cards is know thyself. Okay. For example, Dave Ramsey loves the envelope system. I would be a mess if I used the envelope system because I know myself, I don't keep records. Okay. So if I had envelopes with the money in it, that money would go, but I would have no idea where. Okay. Now, the thing that I don't have a problem with is credit card spending, okay, or spending issues. In fact, my husband has to remind me frequently, look, get what you want, not just the cheapest thing, or spend money. I mean, that is not my problem. I do not have a spending problem. So for me, having a credit card is actually a real benefit because it tracks everything. So I can go in, I can see exactly where the money went. Okay. It also has a cash back, which like Dave Ramsey says, nobody's going to get wealthy off of their, 5% or 2% cash back. But I'll tell you what, I like it every once in a while when I get $25.
I get air miles, and I have family all across the US, and I have not paid full price for a flight in a very long time.
Yeah. So there are, again, knowing when you understand money, then you can make that money work for you. And in my situation, utilizing credit cards works for me because it tracks the money. However, I have it set up to automatically make that payment. Okay. I don't even take the chance that I'm going to get busy and forget and end up paying interest. It is an auto payment that automatically that credit card gets paid off on the due date every single month. So to me, it's not really like using a credit card. It's now there are also things, the credit card versus the debit card. There are some benefits to that. When my husband and I first got married, I actually had only debit cards because I was doing the whole Dave Ramsey thing. Well, I started doing a lot of traveling with my work, and my work covered the cost for the hotel. But because I was checking in with a debit card, they would actually freeze like $600 every time I traveled. They'd freeze if I was staying 3 days, they freeze that whole amount on my debit card. Okay, which again, I don't like that. Okay, on a credit card, they don't necessarily need to freeze it because they can access that on the credit card. On a credit card, okay, on a debit card, if your debit card gets stolen and someone spends on that, that money is gone. On a credit card, and this might be, I haven't checked into this for years, so these rules may have changed.
Well, if you use your debit card with the PIN, it's gone. If you run your debit card like a credit card, which you can, then it's protected like a credit card.
Okay, yeah. So basically the credit card, using a credit card or using the debit card as a credit card, you have some protections there that aren't available. So again, I like to use a credit card to make my purchases, but they get paid off. They get paid off every month. There is absolutely no carrying a balance. And if you have a credit card problem, okay, if that's not something that you have the self-control to do, which, my thing's chocolate, okay, so no judgment, okay, and we all have our thing. My thing's chocolate. I have a really hard time saying no to chocolate. Okay, I don't have a hard time saying no to spending. And so know thyself. That's the rule here. Know thyself, know how money works, know how you work, and then figure out what's going to work so that you are not paying interest. That's the big thing I say. I don't pay interest, okay? I will do whatever it takes to not pay a dime of interest.
Now, most of that topic about the credit score and credit cards and paying them off every month, that's really conversation for adults, because if we take that and gear it back to kids, do not get them a credit card. Teach them to spend what they have. Teach them to save for things. And once they show responsibility in their own budget and their own handling of cash, maybe you could introduce them later on to the idea of a credit card, because I use my credit card, but I budget for what I put on that credit card. I don't just go, yeah, I want this, and go, oh my gosh, I spent $3,500 and I didn't even know it, Do not co-sign on a credit card for your kids. Teach them operating cash because of the learning experience, not because they'll never need a credit card, because they might when they travel, like Shirley said, or they're going to use it for points back or cash back or the miles. Like I love my miles credit card, but it's the habits that we want to instill first and then talk about that later when you think they're ready. But just know that things can be done without the perfect credit score. That's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to protect that score. Having a 0 is okay right now. Okay, the last lie I want to talk about is student loans. Student loans are a good debt. Okay, I do not believe there is any such thing as good debt. And students are leaving college with an average of 35 grand in debt. And when I say leaving college, I don't always mean graduating, because we talked about this last week a little bit. Student loans are pushed. My sister said that the language that she has been seeing is, you have been awarded a loan. Wow. Okay. These poor college students that start their adult lives with or without a degree, $35,000 in debt on average, move back in with mom and dad. That's kind of harsh. They can't take the job they really want because they've got this crushing debt. Now, they don't have to take debt to go to school. It takes some planning, and the earlier the better, but kids can go to college without debt. And we will probably do a whole series on that.
We need to.
You can start teaching them to save money for college. I don't care how young they are. You can start saving a little yourself. Encourage your kids to get good grades. If you're going to spend some money on your kids and they need help in school, get them tutors, get them something that will help, because the better grades they get, the higher scores they get on ACTs and SATs, the more likely they are to get scholarships. Dave Ramsey talks about making them spend the entire summer or most of the summers, their years in high school applying for scholarships, because you get $500 here and $250 there, and they add up. Now, even, yeah.
So I worked with a lot of students when I was running the youth program, and we had one of our mentors that came to Utah State. She actually made money going to school because she had, during her high school year, she planned, and she basically applied for one scholarship, every month. And that made it, manageable. So she wasn't like applying for a ton, but she would apply for different scholarships. And she literally came to school with more money than what she needed to graduate.
That's awesome.
It absolutely can be done. Where you go to school matters. Okay.
Yes.
Kids going in state is a lot less expensive than going out of state.
Yeah.
You don't need to be going to the school that you graduate from. You don't necessarily have to go there 4 years. Okay. If you go to a community college, if they go to a community college for the first, 2 or 3 years, and then they transfer to the school that they want their degree from, you know what? They still have a degree from whatever the university is.
That's true.
The credit in school. Okay.
Yeah.
Taking the classes.
Kim, did anybody make any comments in the chat we need to look at?
Yeah, we just got one from Emily. She said, we like our Amazon credit card. We get rewards towards Amazon. You don't need to read. Oh, you don't need to read this out loud, but I just did. Sorry.
Thanks,
I read the whole thing first.
Awesome. Other options for paying for college. My youngest daughter joined the Navy right out of high school because she wanted someone else to pay for college. She's still there. They've paid for her degree. It's a possibility. I think even kids that are in college that have student loans, if they want to join the military, I think they'll even take care of some of the student loans they've already incurred. But yes, choose a college that you can afford. Community colleges are great. There are ways to do it. Now, a lot of online schools are quite expensive, but not all of them. I went back as an adult and finished my degree, and it cost me about $8,000. And I had to get over 100 credits. I went into college at age 48 with 16 and a half credits to my name. So it took me 120 credits to get a bachelor's degree, and I did it for less than $8,000. So it can be done. If you want to know more, message me. So
Okay, and you guys, another thing to keep in mind, okay, when we look, we grew up with all of this data that said, a college, you have to go to like a real university, you have to be at the university, it's going to pay you so much more, okay? You guys, that is not the case anymore. You need to stay current on the trends and whatever. Going to a technical college and getting a technical skill, that pays out. There are some technical skills out there that pay a lot of money. So again, and not to say I am all about education. I love education. But we need to be smart about it. I love education that's going to help make people's lives better. When it's just an education, just to let's spend a lot of money to get a degree that we're not necessarily going to use, and then we'll go to a technical school and get the skill that we really love doing. And here's another thing, you guys, let's support our kids in doing what if you love your work, you never have to work a day in your life. Yeah. And so kids, I mean, there are people who spend thousands of dollars getting a degree in what's going to look good and what everybody thinks that they should do. And then they get into the field and realize, I'm really unhappy here. I hate this work. What I really wanted to do was, something else. So again, be very wise on helping your kids choose something that they're going to enjoy doing and choose the right way. It's okay to go to a technical college. And yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, years ago, that was not what the data bore out, but that is the reality. And technical colleges and getting a technical degree can be very much more efficient, and they can make a lot of money.
Computers are big. Computer information technology, it's a matter of certifications. It's not necessarily a bachelor's or a master's.
Yeah, you don't have to go to a university.
It's the certifications. I saw another a couple of messages come in, so go ahead, Kim. I'm gonna let you read a couple of them.
Okay. Oh, let me just go up so I can make sure I got the. Okay. It says, when I went off to college, I used the free grants and scholarships and declined the loans and used money I had saved from working to pay. So no student loans, yay.
Yay, that's awesome. They say that kids that work part-time do better in school than kids that don't work at all.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Elise did the same thing. She graduated with no debt or any student loans.
Awesome.
Angela wrote, I don't know if every high school does it, but shadowing someone in a job is a great idea to see if you like it.
That's a good idea. And speaking of high school, if your kids have concurrent enrollment classes, awesome way to get credit for college. I didn't have that option when I was in California going to school, but my kids did, and they took advantage of it. So
yeah, great point that Robin makes. The CE classes at high school allowed her daughter to get an associate's degree in one semester. And you guys, nice. That is very real. And if you go into with all those classes, just think you're paying, I mean, I think it's like $36 when they take the test instead of, what, 11, 12, 1,400. I don't even know what they are anymore per credit. Okay, that's a huge difference. I want to just share one experience here just to help you understand the importance, which I think you guys all understand. But so as a financial advisor, I had the opportunity to meet with a lot of different clients and families. And I will always remember one experience. I showed up at the door to meet with a young lady she was obviously visibly upset. And I said, you know what, we can reschedule, sorry, obviously, you forgot about our call and our meeting. And she said, no, come in. She said, you're probably exactly who I need to talk to. And so as we visited, she shared with me, so her car had broken down that day. And so she was having car troubles, but she said, it just hit me this morning, and this was in, I think, February or March that we were meeting. And she said, I graduate this semester. She said, I have a month before I graduate from college. And she said, I am graduating with these thousands of dollars. She told me how much, thousands of dollars of debt. And she said, I have just been all morning looking around my apartment, realizing all of the things that I don't want. I didn't need them. I don't want them. I had all of this student loan money. And so I could always afford anything I wanted. And I just spent it. And she said, now I am graduating and I have all of this debt and I just want to give this stuff back. I don't want it. I don't know why I bought it. I don't know why. You guys, let's not let our kids have that experience. Let's teach them right off the bat. And sometimes the way to teach them is letting them make mistakes. Let them make the little mistakes
When they're young.
so they're not making the big mistakes. I remember with my son, he loved shoes. Okay, this is the same Nick. He might be mad if he knows I was talking about him now. Okay, and he was very good with money. All my kids have been really good with money, but he really loved shoes. And he dated a girl that really loved fashion. And so she took him out and she dressed him, and so a couple of months, he was buying some things that I would not have necessarily bought. And then all of a sudden one day he came to me and he said, I could have done better, huh? He said, I didn't need all these shoes. I didn't need these clothes. He said, I should have been saving this. And again, when they say that, then just support them. And I smiled and said, and now you know.
And send them to Poshmark or eBay or Mercari. Let them offload their stuff. Oh.
Yeah, so let them learn. Well, the stakes are fairly inconsequential. Yeah, it would have been great to have all of that money back. Every time he would, when he was spending, I was thinking, but he was at that age when I let him make some mistakes and then he figured it out. Kids they'll figure it out. And if you've got that open relationship, they'll actually come and they'll talk it over and say,
Awesome.
Okay, now what can I do differently? How can I make up the difference?
That's a great segue into the next thing I was going to talk about, because we've listed all the lies that the big ones anyway. But I really want you to pay attention to what I'm about to share, because I'd really like to hear little input if you feel so inclined. Now, Dave Ramsey's daughter, Rachel Cruz, shared an experience and something that her mother had said. I can't remember the situation, but Rachel had gone someplace. Oh, one of her friends had like expensive clothes and expensive handbags and things like that. And Rachel didn't. And she said something to her mother, and her mother said, just because someone looks like they have a lot of stuff doesn't mean they own it. This young lady, Shirley, was talking about had a lot of stuff, but guess what? She didn't own it because she was still paying the student loans with which money she used to buy the stuff. Now, debt can make us look good on the outside because debt is built on lies. Now, I never thought about that until I did some research for today's parent discussions, parent conversations. But here's the question I want you to think about. What kind of effect does this kind of deception, these lies, the idea of having a lot of stuff that isn't really yours because you have debt against it, what kind of effect does that have on kids, especially teens? Raise your hand if I need to rephrase or repeat. Kim, anybody want to say anything about that?
Well, Janelle wrote something, but it was when we were talking about schools. She wrote, if you can teach kids the importance of getting your degree as early as they can, it is never too late, but it is harder when you have a family and a job, etc.
Oh yeah, much harder. I can attest to that. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So kids.
Answering your question, Meagan, your kids will, when they're out with all of their friends that appear to have all of this stuff, okay, that can have an impact on them. But if you can help them understand how money works, that can change their mindset and help them. I remember, so I had a nephew and I was over visiting my sister one time, and he had been school shopping, and he got home and he was so excited to show me all of his new clothes. He'd been school shopping at the DI, and he took great pride in showing me this. It was like practically new, and he's like, yeah, I paid $1 for this, and then he pulled out another one, these jeans were $3. It's a mindset, and he's done very well. This is a young man who understands money, And so, yeah, he's, living, he can have, I love the way, Dave Ramsey says, live now like nobody else, so you can live later like nobody else. But you can live comfortably. You can have your dream home, but also be able to afford it and not have all of the debt and the stress that goes with it. Going back to, what Meagan was talking about with the home mortgage and whatnot, and being in your 60s, and I'm not quite 60, okay, but I'm getting there, okay. You guys try to imagine when on the day that COVID hit, okay, and there was all the stress, and I know that there, a lot of financial stress. It's very nice in your, pushing 60. We were in a position to go, you know what? There's no mortgage. Okay. Our home is paid off. We have this, another thing, little needs. Okay. To have little needs. I always say there are 3 things you can do to create financial peace. And it is to live within your income. Okay. Have a little bit of residual income. Well, first of all, no debt, I guess is the thing. To have no debt, to have some residual income, and to have low needs. Okay, we can, because if you get in the habit of having a lot of stuff and then something happens, then you miss the stuff that you don't have. My husband and I live very, very well, but we really don't spend any money. So I guess some people would look and go, well, no, you really don't live well. But it's like, yes, because there's financial peace there. We can afford the things that we want, but we really don't want very much. So help your kids build that mindset. They will do so much better off. Help them build that mindset that saving is what's really cool.
And they need to understand that most people that seem to have a lot of stuff are probably under a big burden of debt with it. They're not going to know that there could be, or probably is, a connection between having a lot and owing a lot of money, unless you teach them. So how do you do this, right? First is to be honest with yourself. You and your significant other need to, if you're not in a position where you're in control, you need to make a plan so that you can be in control. So you can make that decision now to change, because I don't think it's ever too late. It's just better the earlier you do it. Time is a factor. And parents, do not feel guilty about making this change. Yeah, you're not going to charge the stuff the kids get for Christmas. Maybe Christmas will be really simple next year. They don't need you to carry debt in order to make them happy. They might not be real thrilled at first, but if you involve them and educate them and share with them what you're doing, and you're honest with them about the lies that debt and society tell them, then you're going to be doing them a much bigger favor. And there are things that you can do with your family that build relationships and strengthen the family bonds that don't cost a thing. They don't need stuff. And My Discovery Destination is all about that. That's why everything that we offer to families, most of the stuff that you hear about from us is free to families. I saw a comment. Let's take that. I don't know how much more time we've got. Do we lose it at 1:55? At 55?
No, we're fine.
Okay.
It says, my son thanked us for making him pay for his own car. He said he's grateful for learning to work and has seen the entitlement that comes from his peers when parents give them cars / insurance / gas, etc.
Thank you. I have a nephew. When he was in high school, I saw him a lot because I worked at the high school that he attended. And I know he complained a lot about his parents not doing enough for him. You know what? That kid graduated. He went on an LDS mission. He came home. He runs a very successful business. But he came to work for me for my business for a while. And I had Dave Ramsey on in the background all the time. And he thanked me. He wasn't even my own kid. So that made me feel really good. I'd forgotten about that. But Janelle, I'm assuming that was your comment. Thank you.
Actually,
I have a comment.
Janelle, go ahead.
Yeah, let's hear it, Janelle.
So you were talking about the whole going in debt over Christmas thing. And there was one time that my kids were really asking for some huge things for Christmas. And so we had this very frank conversation about how, and they're young enough that they're still into Santa and everything. And so we had this very frank conversation about how there are resources in this world and nothing comes from nowhere, that everything comes from somewhere. Even when you go build something, what do you need to build it? You need all these things. So the elves, they need those things too. If you take too many of these resources, do you think there will be enough for them to build all the things for all the other kids in the world? And so we had this conversation about how much you really should ask for and about the needs of other people.
Wow.
And it kind of changed how, so they kind of, when they evaluate their list, we kind of, well, that looks like it might be a little bit more than what, can probably handle. Do you think there'll be enough, things for everybody if you ask for something that big? Anyway, and so that's kind of how we've had to approach it to be able to keep within our budget, is we just explain to them that everything comes from somewhere, and that they need to be aware of other people and the needs of other people and the resources out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of problems we have with kids is money. Kids don't realize money comes from work. They think it comes from mom and dad. And we've talked about that in the last couple weeks. Anything else before we move on with some truths I want to share about debt? Okay, I'm moving on. Truth, if you don't have the money, you don't buy it. Truth, live on less than you make. That sounds familiar, right, Shirley? Okay. Yep. Truth, debt is owing anything to anyone for any reason. Truth, most families in this country are in financial trouble. Truth, following most people's financial practices will land you in the same position that most people are in. Truth, you must teach your children to ignore the popular view of finances. Truth, debt is a thief. It steals money and peace of mind. That is a direct quote from Rachel Cruz, Dave Ramsey's daughter. Truth, debt is also a curse. Do you know anyone ever who was grateful for their debt? Now, the Bible has nothing good to say about debt. The New International Version of the Bible in Proverbs, I believe, says that the borrower is slave to the lender. Slaves do not get a choice. So here's another truth related to that. Debt robs you of your ability to choose. If you graduate from college with $35,000 in debt or more, and you want to work at this one company because it's your dream job, but you can't afford to pay your student loans off working for them, you don't get to do that. You lose your right to choose. Truth, there is really no good debt, quote unquote good debt. Your kids can go to college without debt, and you need to start that conversation yesterday, not the month before graduation. These kinds of conversations must be intentional, and what you have done in the past doesn't matter. Use your experiences to teach your kids, because they don't have to make the same mistakes that you've made. And I think it's fair to actually say that to them. I don't want you to have the same struggles I did. I want you to win with money. That's all I have. Was there another comment, Kim? I thought I saw a flash on the screen.
Just Janelle had to leave.
Oh, okay.
We need to do the giveaway.
Yes, let's see if I can
Spin the wheel.
share my screen and do the wheel. So share screen. Okay, do you guys see that?
No, you need to there you go.
There we go.
Okay, and I just have the 3 people, right?
No, we need to put in Emily.
Okay,
Someone, yeah, someone was invited by Emily.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was 4?
Yep.
All right, we'll spin the wheel then.
Oh, this is cute.
This is how we'll do it.
Robin.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Robin, email watson@mydiscoverydestination.com and we'll get you your prize. Okay, it'll be not the FPU, the Smart Money Smart Kids set. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. We will I will do a better job of making sure this recording gets posted tonight. It didn't happen last week. I don't know why. I created the post and it didn't save it or something.
Hey, and you guys, everybody, sorry, I'm typing and at the same time. Everybody remember to bring friends next time, okay? We want to have lots of names in that wheel. For everybody that you bring to the class, you're going to get an entry. And of course, they'll have an entry for being here as well. So be sure to spread the word, bring your friends.
Tag them in the Facebook posts.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. You're awesome. Yeah, we should also do that. You'll also get an entry for sharing the post, like on your profile.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next week for the last in this series.
Thank you. And if your team